Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a beautiful morning. My name is Jacqueline Beaulieu and I'm a PhD candidate studying higher education at the University of Toronto. I'm in the process of undertaking my morning routines and rituals and thought that this would be a great opportunity to share one aspect of that routine with you. So here we go. So before we get started, I want to briefly comment on the importance of having routines as graduate students, as PhD candidates. When I first started out my PhD, I was getting up at like 5 a.m., 5:30, 6 a.m. to start reading and writing. And the reason for that was I had been told that the early bird gets the worm and that you should, study right away because your brain is fresh in the morning. And while that was all fine and dandy, when it came to later on in the evening, I didn't have a lot of energy to do exercise or the other things that, help keep me well and, just like the other aspects of your life that are important. And so it took me a while to realize that I should probably reverse engineer my day. And so what I do now is I wake up, I have breakfast, and immediately I do about an hour of exercise, and that usually involves something like running or swimming, or today was actually Zumba, which is super fun. And after I get ready, the next thing that I actually do is I sit down and plan out my day and really think about how I want things to go down. So that's what today's video is going to be about. So the first thing I do is I open my Passion Planner, which is a planner I have been using for about 4 years. I absolutely love it and recommend it to every graduate student on the face of the planet, student affairs professionals, all kinds of folks who would really benefit from using this. Now, this page is intentionally blank because many of my other pages have research-related stuff on them, and so I can't show it to you. But typically on a Sunday evening, what I would do is I would look at my big picture strategy, which is also contained in this planner, and figure out what things I wanted to work on this week and to create a personal to-do list as well as a work to-do list. And then what I would also try to do is figure out for myself which days did I want to tackle the various tasks. And in some cases, I might even map on some of the items into my calendar so I'm not booking meetings with other people when I need to be taking care of things that are on that list. So that sort of has already happened, but step one is to open my calendar and to see what notes have I made for myself about what needs to get done today. Now, here's what happens next. I then pull out my high performance planner, which was developed by the gentleman I mentioned yesterday, Brendan Burchard, who's done some research on high performance. And basically this planner is mainly a daily planner, although you do some weekly reflection as well, and a little bit of monthly planning if you opt to. I actually opt to do my monthly planning in my Passion Planner, but this is so great for making the most of every single day. So basically how it works is, just one second, let me open it for you. What you get is a whole spread to strategize your day. Here's where I like to start, the morning mindset. It asks you all kinds of thoughtful questions that were inspired by his study on high performance. So things like, for example, one thing I can get excited about today is, or someone who needs me on my A game today is. That's a really great one for researchers to think about. As well as, what might you find stressful and how might you deal with it? Who could you surprise with a note, gift, or sign of appreciation? Big projects I have to keep in mind that I might not be able to act on today are, and I would know that today was a great success if at the end of the day I did or felt these things. So I try to quickly fill this out so it's not taking up too much time, but I try to also do so very thoughtfully. I then go to my Passion Planner and pull the tasks for the day and transfer them to this box over here. And then what I do is I try to think about how I would like to do each of those tasks. So if one of them is to attend a meeting, I might say to myself, my goal is to attend the meeting, listen very well, and ask some thoughtful questions. So you can kind of see the difference between the list and the goals and priorities. What I then do is I think about, is there anyone that I need to lead or connect with well today, and how might I do that? So I think about that for a little bit. And then what I do is I like to give myself just a message. It could be an affirmation based on, you know, all the things that I've been thinking about thus far. I try to make the message connect to that. And then what I do is I plug in my calendar of things that I'm going to be doing. And the reason why these spaces are so big, according to Brendan, is that it gives you the opportunity to, again, remind yourself how you want to approach each activity. So if the meeting's here, you know, I might remind myself that, you know, I would really like to be attentive and ask at least one thoughtful question. So things like that. So at the end of the day, you then have the opportunity to reflect on how everything went. So this is actually part of my evening routine, which I suppose this wasn't the point of this video, but because we're talking about the high performance planner, we might as well. And so this gives you an opportunity to reflect on what you appreciated, what went well, what you learned, how you could have made things even better. And at the end of the day, you get to score yourself in some areas that Brendan's research has found as being sort of common focuses of high performers. And so the numbers don't really mean anything to anyone other than yourself, but over time, what's really cool about this is that you can kind of see how you score yourself over the course of a week, a month, and you can sort of see the ebbs and flows in terms of how you're doing in these areas. It's super cool. Now, it's not the end of the week, but if it was, I would be reflecting on some of these questions about how the week went. I would be giving myself some scores in some key areas of my life, and also reflecting on how I was doing in these areas that, again, Brendan has identified as being very at the core of high performance, according to his research. Anyways, I love using this planner every morning to think about my day in an intentional way, thinking about not only what am I going to do, how am I going to do it, how am I going to do it well, how am I going to engage with others, how can I do that well, how can I also experience some joy along the way, how can I maintain my energy, take care of myself. And you know, I do feel that thinking about these things and having that reminder on a daily basis as a doctoral candidate who, I mean, we work in some pretty strenuous conditions and there's a lot to be done. And so these daily reminders can be so powerful, and I would really recommend folks to try this out, even if they don't necessarily do it long term. I think if you even do it for a certain period of time, it becomes habitual and you can really benefit from that. So if you're interested, I will leave a link to where you can get the planner in the comments, or I guess the video description is what we call it. I hope you enjoyed hearing a little bit about my morning rituals and routines. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to continue to follow my journey and receive some tips along the way, please click that subscriber button and click the notifications bell so that you're always receiving updates from my channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a beautiful morning. Bye.